The opinions expressed on the following audio program are solely those of the host and the guests. Burner Podcast is an independently produced, not-for-profit show and is not associated with the Burning Man organization or its subsidiaries. The views expressed are not representative of the entire Burning Man community and are presented here for entertainment purposes only. In short, calm the fuck down. It's just a podcast.
All right. It's episode number 144, and it is 351 days till the man burns as of this particular recording. Although that number seems even less moot now than it did the past however many episodes I recorded last year, because every one of those numbers didn't match up, because the man, I think for the first time in history, did not burn on the day that it was supposed to. So we're, of course, going to talk about that at length in today's episode. If you're listening to today's show and you don't know what we're going to talk about, and you don't know what this podcast is, and you don't know who my guest is, like, what are you even doing with your life? Like, why are you even listening to this? But fine. We'll do the intro for folks who might be tuning in for the first time. We do this annual thing. I'm Arash, your host. We do this annual thing every year after Burning Man, where I sit down with Halcyon himself. He's sitting across from me right now, patiently waiting for me to finish blabbing and making noises into the recording to ensure that you're aware that he exists. And every year, this is our thing. You know, we and it's become like my own personal Burning Man experience tradition that I've gotten into, where all week, I'm starting to make notes in my head about things that I want to talk about that I'm not going to talk people's heads off about while I'm there in the middle of the experience, that I am looking forward to talking to Halcyon about after we're done. So this is our annual tradition. It's our own little like mini show within the show, within our projects. And I love that at this point, it's pretty much become like a given. When I texted John to say that, hey, we're going to do this thing, he's like, sure, here's the date. There was no conversation about what we're doing. We just know this is the thing we do every year. We're going to talk about what happened at Burning Man. And of course, this last Burning Man was arguably the biggest internationally covered, I don't even know if arguably, it might be the biggest internationally covered kind of noticed Burning Man annual experience that we've ever had. And if you were not hiding under a rock on the moon, you probably saw all the stories on the news about Mudman and burners being stuck in the rain, and the FEMA might have to get called in, and all the craziness that was happening. I personally got messages from family in England. I had a text from Iran where people were watching the news and rightfully so concerned about what might be happening out in Black Rock City. So today, we're going to dissect all of that. My guest, of course, is none other than John Halcyon himself. He honestly doesn't need much of an introduction. If you don't know who Halcyon is, get on Google and click on some links and try not to run into his videos and his lessons and all of the amazing contributions he's given to our culture and our community over the years. Founder of Pink Heart, probably Burning Man's first and greatest and always major media personality and influencer. I don't like the word influencer, but you know, people get it. It's shorthand.
Yeah, I deserve that.
Yeah, all right. We'll do that. So yeah, let's get into it. Today is our annual post-burn chat with myself and Halcyon, where we just geek the fuck out and talk about our lessons from this last year, share some interesting stories and tidbits, and, you know, do the thing. Let's do the thing. Today's episode is entitled The Burn You Need. I go by Mr. Arash, even though nobody calls me Mr. Welcome to Burner Podcast.
Things there were sand and hills and rain. The first thing I met was the fly with the balls and the sky with no clouds. The heat was hot and the ground was dry, but the air was full of sound. I've been through the desert on a horse with no name.
my God, I've been holding. People keep asking me. Like I've had so many people ask me questions about like, what's your opinion? Or can you write a thing? You know, and I've just been like, I'm holding it all in for this episode. So we're just gonna climax on each other, all of our thoughts.
I have towels. Don't worry. My reaction has been a little different. Where during the week, my feelings were much different than the way they are now. Like I felt like it's been taking some distance for me to really develop how I feel about this year's burn.
Yeah. Can you elaborate on that for me a little bit? Because I feel like last year you were having a similar process, albeit very different feelings.
Yes, and I appreciate that we are not newscasters here. We are human beings. And so our experience of the burn is very much based on who we are and what we're going through in our lives. And so that is a huge part of my experience this year, is that this was my first sober burn with an asterisk on it in 25 years. Mm-hmm. So I didn't do the intoxicants that have been a part of my burn forever. And so that affected my ability to, when it got muddy and crazy, old me would have been like, yes, let's get fucked up and party through this. And new me had to be like, okay, I got to just be with this situation and not go to my old, go-to soothing thing. So in the moment, I struggled to really be a good burner. Well, this is what my head was doing. Like, I was not like, yeah, I'm having so much fun. I was like, I wish it was different. And I'm like, even as I was having that thought, I wish this was different. I'm like, dude, that's the recipe for suffer. Why are you doing this?
And then add to that, I would imagine, a layer of like, as being such a visible standard bearer for what a burner is supposed to be. I would be.
I felt guilty. I felt like I'd let myself down, and there was a feeling of like, do I lose my burner credentials?
Give me your card.
Yeah, like should I watch some of my old videos where I explain to people that Burning Man is hard? And I think that was also part of it too. Is that this was my 25th, return to Black Rock, and even though I tell people what makes Burning Man awesome is that it stretches you. It's not just going to be fun. It's not a party in the desert. You're probably going to cry. And it's through that stretching that you really find out what you're capable of. And that is why it's transformative. Yeah. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, but I kind of know how to do this. So I'm not really going to get stretched. So that when I do get my ass handed to me, it's like, that's why now with distance, I'm like, oh, shit, I got the burn I needed.
Yeah.
Like, I too got stretched. I got pushed. I was forced to make decisions that are in line with the person that I want to be now, which are different than the burner that I used to be. And so that's why it's been a very different burn, but absolutely so powerful for me.
I have a radical thought that I've been playing with. And I expressed it to some people on Playa and generally had some agreement. I don't know if this was like, some people were like, oh, it's just like Burning Man, a little harder. But I'm like, I don't know if it was harder. I think it was the same level of difficulty, but just different.
Totally.
Because we don't deal with, I dealt with mud my first year. So I feel like I definitely felt, it was, I forget what year it was, but it was like before the gates opened, people were stuck outside.
Right.
But I remember having like the experience of 2 or 3 days of rain on Playa. So when this started to happen, I was like, oh, this is familiar.
Yeah.
But for folks who have not experienced it, which is probably a vast majority of people who have been out there, it's a real mindfuck. It's a whole new curveball.
Right.
You thought you knew all the curveballs. Right. And it's almost like the Playa is like, oh, you think you got me figured out?
Exactly.
Let me show you this new one.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about was it worse? I don't think so. In fact, I would way rather have rain than the oppressive heat of last year.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Like, but there was a similar effect where in both situations, the environment and the weather made it so that it minimized socializing. It minimized your ability to go out and do things and experience other people's camps and go see art. And that's what I think when it starts to mindfuck you is when you go like, there's so much that I wish I was doing right now. And the success formula is when you go, wait, what can I be doing?
Yeah.
And so the stories I heard from so many people in my camp was, you hang out with your campmates, you hang out and you dance and you cook and you do whatever you can within the realm that you can, and stop the thought when it comes in, I wish I could.
Yeah.
I wish I could. Why can't I?
Yeah. The real challenge, as you're describing that, it's really landing for me. How fucking profound and poetic. It's like we've conquered the physical environment, and now the playa put us in a position where we had no choice but to address the internal, the
Right.
FOMO.
Right.
The inner journey on this was way more complicated.
Well, I mean, that's kind of why Burning Man, I think, is this beautiful example or practice place for us, is because life is all about obstacles. We're constantly having things get in our way and struggles. But with Burning Man, we intentionally go to the most difficult place on the planet, and then intentionally have projects that push us. It's tough to make a sushi dinner from scratch when you have access to an awesome kitchen. Try to do that in the desert, in the middle of nowhere. So you create all of these obstacles that are so difficult. And I think because it's so intentional, it pushes us to get to the places of our thoughts that are challenging the default world, where we become aware that I am choosing this obstacle, I am choosing this struggle. And when you feel autonomy, you feel like I'm on this ride by choice instead of I got thrown in the back of a truck and I'm being driven around. Yeah. It's a different experience. And so when the weather is not the heat that you expected, but instead the rain, you can lose sight of the fact that, wait, no, I choose this. I chose survival camping. I intentionally came to this crazy place. Yeah. And if you lose that awareness, you fall into suffering.
Right. And everything you just described right now is part of what I try to encapsulate when I'm sharing with people my thoughts on what the Burning Man experience is, in reference to Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Love it.
Yeah. And it is burning in general is truly the pinnacle of privilege. It really is. And it is not, and here's the thing, it's funny, I started to kind of write this whole post about it, and I'm like, no, this is a conversation. It's going to end up going down a rabbit hole. When I'm saying privilege, yes, the ticket price can be prohibitive for folks, but I don't think that's the real thing. I think when I'm talking about privilege, I'm talking about the inner journey that each of us has gone through in order to get to this space where we are arguably dumb enough to go out into the most inhospitable environment, and choose to put ourselves in this difficult position. And I'm personally navigating a lot of this as I'm navigating sort of the scarcity mentality of my parents' generation as Iranian immigrants coming to the United States. And I've really been making peace with a lot of that experience with them, and seeing they are attracted to calm and safety because they came from war and revolution. My dad is in Orange County, and where he lives, you can eat off of the ground. And I look at that and I'm bored out of my fucking mind. I can't wait to get out of there, but I am really appreciating where I've come on that hierarchy of needs, the level of certainty that I feel that food is taken care of, that I have shelter, even though I'm on this, even currently I'm on this glamour bonding trip is what I'm calling it. I'm bouncing from city to city. But I am so certain that all of these needs are taken care of. My societal needs are covered. I know that I can walk down the street and just not be randomly assaulted because I'm a 6'5" dude, for one thing, living in one of the most privileged country, probably the most privileged country in the world, arguably. And having all of this experience and still choosing to rip it all off and go out into that environment. This is madness to my parents. It's literally it is madness to them. Why would you do this to yourself? And that's what I mean when I'm discussing privilege. It's not the ticket price. You can figure out the ticket price.
I think the privilege conversation around Burning Man is super important and significant. And I think it's far more nuanced and complicated than just people with money can go and people without money can't go. Yeah. Because you're right. The privilege that we're talking about is so deep. It has to do with the environment that you had that gave you the safety that you can take on challenges. Like one of the things, the recurring like kind of gratitude prayers that I give with camp and anytime I'm around burners is this, let's remember the percentage of humans in history that have been able to be exposed to this level of abundance and security that we can dedicate a week of our lives to pure whimsy, delight, pushing science, pushing everything. Like we are not worried about our survival. We are pushing the very limits of human possibility. And the number of people in the history of our planet that have been able to be in that space, it is dependent on all of our ancestors. It is dependent on everything to get us to this place. And so if you go for a week and you are exposed to it, and then you spend the rest of your year just like twiddling your thumbs until you get to go back, you have fucking squandered that privilege. Yeah. And there's a huge responsibility, I think, to go, okay, I have learned what is possible in this crazy, non-transactional world. And so I have to take the brunt of the default world when I keep trying to practice it year round. Yeah. I think that with that privilege is a responsibility. And I think that can ease some of that guilt of the privilege when you go, there is a way for me to use this privilege or use this experience I've had in a way that is beneficial to culture in the world.
Yeah. And that's beautifully said. I agree with all of it. I wanted to also add, and I don't know if this would be about word selection, but when I explore the topic of privilege, I have been exploring in myself the past however many years, the feelings that I have attached even to that word. And I'm looking at it in terms of like, I appreciate the privilege that I have. I am in such a deep state of gratitude for all of the things that have lined up in my life. Many of them not by my choosing, but many of them also through my own work as a result of having had access to that previous privilege, right? Like even my parents, for example, that I was using as an example earlier, coming from war, coming from revolution, from the Middle East, having this like uncertainty. One of the things that they did teach me was how to carry myself. Like anywhere I go, I'm pretty good at walking into most rooms like I own the fucking place. And like that is something that they taught me. And I'm aware that that's a part of my privilege. You know, as a 6'5" male, I can walk with pretty unrealistic level of confidence in most streets, right? I appreciate that. Like that's a gift that I have that not everybody gets to have. And I think even that conversation of privilege, for me, the way that I've been exploring it in a lot of like my writings and my work and my art has been how to come into a space where we can be aware of the privilege by not feeling guilty about it. Does that make sense? If I'm articulating myself properly here.
I believe so. I also, I'm feeling twinges of fear in myself, even the conversation around privilege, because I have so much and that it is, I feel like even engaging in a conversation about it is potentially offensive. Like I feel like, oh man, I'm going to get something for this. But I think that there is a certain amount of recognizing the privilege, recognizing what are the ways of which my circumstances benefit me that I can then utilize in a positive way.
Right.
That is how to instead of the guilt itself does nothing.
Right.
If the guilt inspires you to give away your fortune, great. Or use your fortune responsibly, or pass it on, or something like. I think that it's a heavy ask, and I don't know exactly how you do it to say I turn my back on all of these things that were bestowed upon me without any effort of my own.
I have a working theory. This is what I've been working through myself. I am finding that the more comfortably and openly I recognize my privileges, the more compassion I feel, the more patience I feel, and the more I can help people, including myself. I don't know. It's like the kind of like the basis of reality where the more we try to like suppress something or push it away, the bigger it bubbles up.
Right.
The more I've embraced my feminine energy, the more my masculine energy has felt comfortable to come out and play.
Yes.
You know, I'm working through a mindful eating course right now. And like one of the things that the author was calling out was how when we try to resist the resistance that we're feeling to change, we are creating more resistance. So being able to have these conversations in an open way, in a comfortable way, or at least learning to become comfortable with it so we can explore it, I have found so far has made it easier and better to like, yeah, let's fucking talk about it. Like,
Right.
I am so fortunate. I am so fucking fortunate that I get to go to Burning Man and I have this community and I have friends that like look out for me. And that's actually a good transition to look at the experiences, you know, of the playa. Like you were saying about hanging out with your camp. At one point when the rains began, I was bicycling to catch up with some friends who had just come in like the night before. Like they came in the night before, they slept, and then it started raining. And I was like chasing them down, and man, I keep talking. I've talked about this on every episode. Burns are some sort of a law of attraction synchronicity amplifier. I somehow lose them. I mean, I'm following them the whole time, and I somehow lose them. I lose them in the street, even though I've been to their camp. I can't find their fucking camp. Mm-hmm. It's like all of a sudden I got into some other dimension, and the rain is starting, and I give up. So I bike back to my own camp in 715 and A, and they were all the way in K Street. Like, they're far. And I make it back to my own camp just in time. And then the rain starts, and I feel like every hour, BMIR or somebody was saying it'll be over in an hour, and then it wasn't. And then it just kept going, and it just kept going. And I just kept thinking like, oh, fuck. What an interesting gift that the universe, that the playa gave me in that moment by conspiring so that I lose my friends and I can't find their camp, because then I'd be stuck in their like little van for the next 2-3 days. But I was back in my own camp. I was in my own cozy tent. I was with my campmates where we hung out in a shared space and we had a good time. And I just kept kind of reflecting on that for the next 3 days. Just the gratitude, just so much gratitude for my campmates and for having lost my friends on the way back to their camp, because fuck, that would have been really fucked up.
I think I need to apologize for the weather. I think it's my fault because one, I was so crushed by the heat last year that I basically was praying all year for a cooler year. Like not so, like no heat, cold, please, cold. And in fact, the beginning of the week, like, you know, Wednesday, Thursday, people kept looking at me going, how about this weather? And I kept saying, this weather is proof that God listens to prayers. Yeah. And I have this thought that like Mother Nature was watching me and saying like, if you say that joke one more time, I'm turning this car around. And Friday, okay, you asked for it.
Yeah. I my campmate Bones was doing like a rain dance, so I think we're actually blaming him for all of this. Yeah.
Okay, good, because I was losing sleep over that.
It's the fault of a lot of us that we had it. You know, it's super fascinating. You know, and I think it's important that we call out that up until the rain started, because the rain part is sexy. That's what got the international news and attention, and that's what we keep talking about, and that's what makes us feel fucking badass and all that. But up until then, I don't know, you've been going a lot longer than I have. I feel like it was the best weather Burning Man in history.
Amazing. It was fucking perfect.
It was nuts. It was like the weather was the perfect temperature. It never got too hot or too cold. There was like no dust. I mean, what the fuck?
Because we had the rain before, so there was no dust. I mean, even before the rain, I was looking around my RV, and normally it is coated in like a 1/4 inch of dust. You know, by the end of the week, and I'm like, it's so clean in here. Like, and the weather was so cool. I mean, so I did so many crazy things this year to prepare for extra heat. Like had extra shelters for the top of my old RV, and had extra insulation, and it was literally 30 degrees cooler this year. Yeah. 30 degrees cooler. Yeah, it was awesome.
Oh my God. It's funny because like the month before that too, I was in Texas and it was like 111 daily. So coming into the playa, I was already having a bit of that experience that you were describing about how we go to Burning Man so that we can we stretch ourselves for the rest of the year. I was already having that coming into the playa, like from having been in Texas in 111 degree heat. It was just perfect.
I keep hearing from people in Texas, and it just makes me as if I had enough reasons not to go to Texas. But now, like, I hear Flipside's great, but man, 100 plus. Oh, yeah. Enjoy yourselves, Texans. It
is. Have you been to Austin at all?
I have had wonderful experiences in Austin.
Yeah. I recorded last couple of episodes in Austin. Side note, I think it's the most remote worker friendly city I've ever experienced in my life.
Oh.
Pretty much everywhere you go, you can plug in your laptop and station, and it won't feel weird. And
are these places air conditioned?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They're fabulous. And I'm including San Francisco on that list. I feel like it's like more remote worker friendly than San Francisco. Wow. Austin's a really cool city. Lots of good stuff.
I apologize for saying bad things.
No, you should definitely go. I'm looking forward to going back when it's not 111 degrees. Right before we started recording, just totally calling you out here. You were describing that you have a pee jug sitting next to your computer.
I do. I'm looking at it right now. Yeah.
Is it full? No.
No. I'm pretty good about emptying it right after my Zoom calls, but
that mouth is kind of small.
No. That's just the very tip of it. The whole thing.
Oh, okay.
It's a laundry detergent bottle, which if you are new to pee jugs, how long is this episode? Because I can talk about pee jugs for a long
We should
time.
totally do an episode about pee
And
jugs.
I feel like I was justified this year because I've done a lot of videos about pee jugs, and people sometimes come at me and they're like, oh, I'm like, this was the year of the pee jug.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one of my playa gifts is I have a pee jug solution, which is basically the blue stuff in the porta potties, and I put in little bottles and I made labels for it, and I give people Halcyon's pee jug solution. It's a deodorizer because after a week of heat, even if you're dumping it every day, a pee jug can get kind of gross.
Yeah.
So this was the fucking greatest year ever to give people pee jug solution. And it was the year which we were actually asked by authorities, please use pee jugs.
Wow.
Like, I'm not sure, like, if you're unfamiliar, the thought was that the portos cannot be emptied. And so there's a limited amount of volume they can hold. It's way easier to pee in a jug than to poop in a bucket. So save the volume in the porta johns for your poop.
Yeah.
Man, I could talk about poop all day.
What I was, luckily, I don't know. I'm going to, this is where, like, again, synchronicity, law of attraction. For me, the way it lined up was I did not need to poo, anywhere in the middle of that part where we couldn't get to the porto. So that lined up for me somehow. Somehow, some part of my consciousness was like, don't eat this. Yeah. So I did one before the rain started, and then after, like, it calmed down and stuff, and people were like going to the porta potties. I'm like, all right, cool. I feel really grateful for that. Such a small thing, but I was laying in my tent and it was nice and cozy, and we had like a good monkey hut over my Kodiak. So I just did not like. It was amazing, and I feel appreciative of that.
This was the first year Pinkheart, some people in our camp decided to have our own porto. And so we had a porto that we got off playa from some friends and then decorated it all awesome. It was just gorgeous. But it, just like any other one, could not be serviced when the roads were bad. And so when I did go to the portos during that time, and we were on 9 o'clock street, which I heard was one of the worst streets as far as mud and stuff. But I don't know if you went into the portos or where you were, but there was so much mud inside the portos that there was like foot marks in the foot plus mud. So you had to either walk in, like, back into it, or go in straight, because once you placed your feet into the little foot holder sections in the mud, you couldn't turn.
Yeah.
I was like, it was such a crazy experience to be like backing into it, and then your feet are stuck and you do your business. And even if you went in forward, you couldn't even turn sideways to use the urinal. It was, I give a lot of thought to porta potties this year.
I mean, what you're describing sounds like it's actually better for your, like, gastric system because your knees are raised.
Good point. It's like those tools, what do they call them? Yeah. Squatty potty, a mud squatty potty.
And so in my head, the connection that I made, because I made like this little note about pee jug, and then I wrote home anywhere. And that's really got to be the thing about I think from my experiences burning in general, that I am so grateful for now after a decade of doing it, is that I can pretty much set up home anywhere. I think that's the superpower that we develop in that experience. And I have been reflecting quite a bit this past few months about how most of the world doesn't quite have that experience. Many of us, I think we have almost like, it could be argued that we have like an addiction to location. Like if it's not the same bed that we're waking up in, everything falls apart if we're in a different part of the world, you know? So it does take kind of like a special kind of life practice and experience to be able to wake up in different cities and different time zones, which is why, you know, like one of the things that the artists who can tour the world and stuff, they have that ability. Long before they get like rich and famous,
right?
You know, to be able to do that, that's not an easy thing to do. And Burning Man, I think, has really taught me that anywhere can be home.
That goes back to that, how there's these mental things that you have to learn. Because I remember like having the experience on Playa years ago where the sun is starting to set and I go, I got to get back to camp.
Yeah.
I got to get back to camp because and then I'm like, why?
Yeah.
I don't have to.
Yeah.
And like many people this year that were caught away from their camps were adopted by new camps and slept places because wherever you lay your hat is your home. And so if you're stuck in the rain, you find a way to sleep there. And I thought that was just a beautiful kind of shaking up for us.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. I have like a list of notes that I'd made over the week that I want to chat about. And then you have a list of notes. How should we do this? How about I'll do my first note and we'll talk about that, and then we switch to your note. Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay. I had a note that I made. So I have this system with my iPhone where I have randomized reminders that I've saved. Like every 47 hours at 3:27 p.m., a reminder will pop up. Every 144 hours, you know, blah, blah, blah. So it's meant to be as randomized as possible. And it's things like, can we walk it? Like, can we just go for a walk instead? Can we walk away from this and not think about it and allow the answer to come? Note gone is one of my favorite ones. Like note when something's gone. Like, oh, there goes that sound. It's gone. There's this moment gone. You know, just reminders, like random reminders throughout the day. I noticed that ideally, obviously, all of these things are made so that I can be more present and feel the best kind of version of myself experiencing this physical reality. I noticed that on Playa, I didn't need any of those reminders. And there's like a list of 30 something of them, and they are all happening organically. And that was the moment that it hit me. This is why I keep coming back. No matter how crazy it gets, I am somehow the best version of myself and the most present, and all of the things that I try to remind my body and my brain to do in the default world, on Playa, they are happening organically.
Right. I think part of that is, you know, like one of the gifts of any type of travel is that when you have a difference in circumstances, a difference in stimulus, your brain has to kind of like pay attention.
Yeah.
And Burning Man, because there's so much that you just can't take for granted. None of your normal grooves of the default world work. So you're nimble in your thoughts. It's a lot easier to not get stuck in a rut of thinking because you don't need a reminder to be like, hey, do this, because you're open to that thought coming at any time.
Yeah, absolutely. And people, my favorite thing about Burning Man, you walk around the streets, anybody you make eye contact with, you smile, you know, it's so much easier to do that. Whereas in the default, we get like so focused on our individual. Yeah. And to me, I got to tell you, like that was my first burn. The big like post burn blues I had was seeing how much people avoid eye contact.
Yeah.
And that to me is the primary thing I bring back with me regularly.
And I think that is one of the primary ways that we can use this privileged experience we just had and bring it to the default world. Because the truth is, if you continue to smile at people, if you continue to compliment them, if you can continue to say good morning before anyone else does, some of the people in the default world are not going to respond with the same enthusiasm and joy as the playa. And it only takes a few people raising their eyebrows before you stop doing it. And so I am a big believer, and actually every morning at 9 a.m. I do a broadcast and I try to invite people, hey guys, let's remember that there's a lot of us out there. In fact, if you just think about it statistically, there's got to be millions and millions of us out there that would rather hear a good morning than have somebody put their eyes down. So let's be that person. Let's be the person that says hello and good morning. And the cost of the fact that we've experienced that joyful community is that we have to endure the pain of occasionally someone in the default world giving us that look. And I honestly think that if we just adjust our daily behavior to more eye contact, more thank yous, sincere thank yous, more hellos and good mornings, we become 10 principal ambassadors in an activism, powerfully important kind of way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the handful of people that don't give us the super positive feedback, like they become so much easier to endure. I think we're more forgiving. And then again, what happens is we go back to the playa every year and we get more juice so that we can come back again into the default and keep doing that. And to me, that goes back to like my running internal mantra, which is the quote that is attributed to Rumi. We don't know if he actually said it, which is, yesterday I was clever and I tried to change the world. Today I am wise, so I am changing myself. And I always come back to that, like that simple hello, that simple eye contact and smile, but like sincere, you know, that sincereness that we come back with, that makes this other person's day 1% better. And hopefully they in turn make somebody else's day 1% better. They bump into somebody on the way out of the restaurant and they feel a little bit better about it. And it's like, it's less of a big deal than it would have been if they'd just been dealing with like angry people earlier.
And what if of the 10 people that you say hello to today, one of them is someone like us who has not had the privilege of a community that's supporting them. And so they are living in this life of a mask. They're living in this, they want so desperately to find home, you know? And so when you, the stranger, gives them a little peek at the way we're allowed to be if we let ourselves, like, I think you can't overstate how significant that can be. And you've probably had these experiences in your life when you cross paths with a cashier who just like jolts you with presence and you're like, whoa, that was awesome. And we can all do that because we are doing it all day long during the burn. And I think that's one of the reasons why these crazy momentums of creativity and expression happen is because you start to just like, it adds to itself. And then you start to get more and more confident. Okay, well then I'm going to sing when they do that. I'm going to do this. And, you know, and so when we can start those momentum flows in the default world, that's how we can, you know, use that juice year round.
Yeah. Abraham Hicks describes that as like those like spinning things that we used to get on as a kid, and then you spin them harder and harder and they spin faster and faster. It's like, that's what positive momentum is. It's like, yeah, sometimes you might meet somebody and he's like, fuck off. Why are you so fucking happy? Right. But that 1% could be the 1% the next person needs. And then the 2% the next person needs. And the 3% happiness the next person needs. And this is how we make it a little bit more tolerable to experience this physical reality. I want to see what's your first note.
Well,
I love, by the way, that they're typed and printed out. You're adorable.
Well, most of these are just like art projects that I really appreciated. But one thing I had a note about was just I so appreciated the art form of footwear. You know, because you learn very quickly that even though most of us going into it, we know that your feet are going to gather the mud. It's going to become like a Frankenstein boot. So I brought rain boots thinking that would be great. Nope, rain boots don't work. But what does work better than rain boots is plastic over rain boots. And then you see people that like, okay, I'm just doing it just barefoot. Okay, no, I'm doing it just in socks. And I saw somebody made a graphic of like like probably 15 different versions of socks on top. There was like sock, boot, sock on top of plastic, on top of socks, Ziploc on top of, and I mean, and it really, there were solutions that were significantly better than others.
Yeah.
And so what did you do for your footwear?
I want to just real quick for any listeners who did not go, like this might they're like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? Yeah, there is something that happens with the chemical mixture of the rain and the mud where it's not normal mud, it turns into clay.
Yeah.
And as you walk, you just kind of keep getting a little taller because it keeps collecting and it gets hard.
You feel it in your hips. It's like walking with cinder blocks on your feet.
Yeah.
It's a legitimate weight attached to your feet.
Yeah. My ankles were pretty jacked up because I moved around, I think Sunday after like, I don't know, third day or something, second day or third day of rain. And it started to build up and I saw there were people out. I'm like, all right, I guess we're going to go out a little bit. And yeah, it messed up my ankles pretty bad I had to like kind of get off of them for a day. What did I do? I walked around in Ziploc bags around camp. And that worked because you could close the Ziploc onto your foot.
Over bare feet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when I was around our camp area. And that worked out fine. The only challenge was that the Ziplocs were like normal size and my feet are size 15. So that was a thing. And then when I actually moved around the city, I put on my boots, which are still sitting in our front porch right now. And I don't know if I care to try to clean them and fix them.
They're so labor intensive. Like I thought, okay, I'm going to soak these boots and then it'll make it easier for the clay to come off. Nope.
Yeah.
It's a scraping
So
process.
you haven't figured out a solution?
No, what I did was, to clean the boots? No, it requires scraping.
Do I care about these boots enough to do that? Because one of the things that I experienced in this past year is I purged a lot of my things. And so a bunch of my shoes got, like my burn wardrobe upgraded and then my regular wardrobe purged them into that. I'm still kind of like, I guess, a little old school in regards to that kind of burning where I take out the stuff that I'm ready to fuck up, like not fancy things.
This was a year of a lot of purging, I think.
Yeah.
You know, like our camp, we intended to get rid of a lot of pillows, but then when you have rain-soaked pillows, that like there's not enough time for those to dry, and they can't go into a container. I think I'm curious how many camps had like significant, dump runs of fluffy things that just couldn't dry in time.
I definitely dumped a bunch of things rather than even like, I'm not even going to fucking try to clean this.
Yeah.
Which is, in that moment, I also appreciated that, again, like what I bring out to Burning Man is like stuff I'm ready to fuck up. Like I'm ready to say goodbye to it because I don't want to think about it. And then that definitely had some clothes that went into the dumpster. I had some slip-ons that I was walking around camp with before the rain started, and those went. Like there's no way to save those. It was like made out of rubber or something. All right, I'm going to go through my next note.
Next.
I had a note, shout out to placement. So episode 143, actually the last episode, one of our guests was Monday from placement committee. And we were saying, how magical is it? We got to run into each other 3 times at Burning Man. Like that's kind of amazing. And I got to go to placement committees. We got to like swing by and observe, like they had a kind of like a celebration at the Man, at the 12 o'clock site of the Man at midnight after like their primary part of the job was done and everybody was placed. And we got to hear some of their stories and see how much work placement puts into placing camps. Like that's all they're doing all year is figuring out which camps should be placed where the city line's drawn. And it was very moving to see how much emotion and personal energy goes into that experience, and to see this moment when they've like come together to celebrate the work that they'd put in. And I really appreciated it. And it was a fun little experience. And it was definitely one of those moments where I kind of look around and go like there's a lot of people who go to Burning Man and like they're there at their camp or they're at the party, right? Like it's a big city and a big chunk of folks do that. And it was a moment where I looked around and go like, this is pretty cool. I get to see this part of it.
That's cool. Yeah, I have so much admiration, compassion for placement. I mean, the just the volume of camps that have to be placed, and knowing that every single camp is filled with people that are so passionate about what they're doing. Yeah. And the placement doesn't have the time to fully understand the soul and heart of each of these camps, and yet trying to do justice. And I say that as someone who is, publicly had some struggles with placement. And not placement, the people where I have been placed. And I think it's a really almost, I mean, I'm sure there's thanks, but it's got to be a thankless job at times.
It can be. I observed it. Also, I got to learn from hearing some of these folks speak. Just like so much of Burning Man, we had Buck Down as a guest on this show, and he described how he kind of created his job. A lot of folks have basically created their job for Burning Man as Black Rock City expands, right? And the bigger it gets, the more, and I know what I'm about to say irritates a lot of folks, the more we have to set up some bureaucracies so that we can make this thing happen. And as a person who has a lot of experience with bureaucracies, I've worked for government for many years, and then now I'm navigating, artist world and counterculture. So like I spend a lot of time with folks on both sides of the spectrum. The rebellious artists that are like, fuck all structure, and then you have like the more structured spreadsheet, I need things to be placed in a certain way. And I think physical reality tends to operate best when we're somewhere in the middle of the spectrum, where we're kind of balancing these things off. So I've gotten to kind of observe some of that happening as our community grows and as Burning Man gets to the size it has, that in order to keep that machine operating, it needs these levels of structure. And we are continuing to figure out what the best way it is to pull those things off. And one of those layers of bureaucracy is placement, right. Figuring out where things go. And that kind of transitions actually to my next note, and I kind of wanted to see some of your feelings on this. The preface of this, and I talk about this regularly, the org is doing a spectacular job of managing what is probably Earth's biggest shit show. Like, I feel like I can't exaggerate that. It's pretty fucking impressive what we pull off this year. I am hearing, and this is completely a feeling, this is totally anecdotal, there's no science or numbers behind this. I feel like I am hearing more conversations where I hear individual folks, artists, camp leads expressing frustration about bureaucracy. Because they'll have thoughts about how, well, we're leaving the default world in order to get away from this. But you still need some level of bureaucracy in order to execute the level of this thing that we're doing out in this inhospitable environment. I'm certainly very much like in the earlier stages of exploring this, but the feeling that I have, the thoughts that I've always had about it is that I'm looking at the inevitable evolution of a movement, of a city. It is a fucking city. It needs a government. So the org I see is basically the government. And then we have us, all of us as citizens. And then we have like folks like myself or like you in like the media, where we do like the storytelling and we kind of like connect different communities and people get to express themselves and share and talk about these things. But it's been really interesting. I've been like observing that and observing what it's like to be a person who has worked for government, who understands like the value of it, and who's observing some of these things. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts or feelings about this.
Oh boy, yes. And it's such an interesting situation that Burning Man is in, because so much of what makes the magic work is the elements of the culture that are outside of what traditional cities and bureaucracies are. Yeah. It's that gifting works because we all act as if we're all in the same family. You know, gifting doesn't work on a societal level because it breaks down too quickly because you don't treat everyone like your family.
Yeah.
But Black Rock City, we kind of do. We kind of assume that you're not going to take advantage of me. I'm not going to take advantage of you. And so, and when you trust each other, you know, you have to, a bureaucracy is in place when you don't trust each other, you know? And so it kind of starts to erode that feeling of like, it's all going to work out. I trust you. It's all going to work out. And I think that, like, I get, especially as we are interacting more and more with governments and with law enforcement and these things, we're not in a vacuum. We're not just this crazy experiment happening that nobody knows about.
Yeah.
We're being watched, and the consequences of something going bad are huge. That being said, it is a different experience when you're doing something because you know it's right based on the principles versus you're doing it right because you're going to get in trouble if you don't.
Right.
And there's a similar thing that happens in theme camps often, and it's something that I think a lot of camps struggle with during growth and figuring out. Like, so, you know, Pink Heart started, and we had a water bar and we had ice cream days. And I just found the email that I sent right before the burn on the first year of Pink Heart, like, you know, 14, 15 years ago. And it spec'd out our activities, and it was a call out to all members. Hey, ice cream is on these days. It's kind of all hands on deck. So you should probably be there. If you're not, you understand things happen at Burning Man. Water bar shifts. If you see someone, the water bar needs help, get behind the bar. And we trusted that you feel ownership, so you make it work.
Right.
And then over time, you develop, people expect you to do things. You do a good job. People go, hey, how come the water bar wasn't open at this time? It's like, oh, how do we make sure that we never drop the ball? So we have to have shifts, and and then suddenly this thing that was done as a gift and joyous starts to become bureaucratized. It starts to become a job, and it starts to, the love and the joy of doing it because it makes you feel good kind of erodes a little bit. And I don't know the answer. I just think this is the dilemma that Burning Man as a whole, you know, as Black Rock City has. It's the same thing that any organization has as it goes from, you know, we do the right thing because it's what makes the magic happen, to what are the rules we have to follow to make it keep working.
Right. Yeah, no, I beautifully said, and I couldn't agree with you more. And then that's the thing that I want to stress. We don't have an answer. No. In fact, my stance on it is that I believe I'm very passionate about conversation over debate, which is why I do this podcast. I think it's 10,001 of these kinds of conversations that you and I are having that move our culture forward, rather than setting up debate structures about who's right and who's wrong. And Burning Man is in that interesting place because the level of what they have to navigate with external government sources, but then also governing their own internal citizens at BlackRock, it is a massive feat. It's a lot. And there is a sense of like, we'd like for you to follow these things because it's the right thing to do and everybody's into it. But as that structure calcifies and becomes more like the mud brick shoes that we were wearing at this burn, the more you have some of these experiences that pop up where we have folks in the community feeling frustrated that they are dealing with some bureaucracy rather than the Burning Man that they love. Right. One immediate example that pops into my head was Camp Lip Balm. Was like, we've had them on the show. They have really impressive infrastructure. After this last burn, they were kind of like, we're done. Yeah. And they kind of felt like the bureaucracy felt a little bit, it'd become thankless. They're ready to like experience some different things. I certainly might be open to like actually sit down with them and get like the full story of like what it was. But my desire is to explore how we can continue to move forward with love in this community and to continue to support it and support each other and what we can all do as citizens of the community. And one of the things I come back to is show up. You can join committees. Right. You can volunteer. You can be a part of the conversation, rather than like, fuck this, I'm out of here.
Yeah. And I think that it reminds me of another struggle that I think we're having as a community, which is people fall in love with our city and our culture, and then we start to hear problems in the like Instagrammers are a problem, or Moop is a problem, and so
it's not perfect,
and so then we get super attached to something about that problem, and people become enforcers. So they see someone with feathers in their outfit, and they start yelling at that person.
Yeah.
Or they see someone doing a photo shoot, and they make this assumption that they're an Instagrammer, which is totally unacceptable. So many beautiful people with awesome outfits also make art cars and do things but the number of people I have talked to who have felt the brunt of this enforcer mentality is way too much. And I think that we need to keep in mind that if you are yelling at someone, you are creating far more poison for our culture than whatever piece of feather that you're trying to stop happening.
Yeah.
And as you said, conversations. If you think someone is really messing up our event, there's a good chance that ignorance is at fault. And so you need to go say, hey, it looks like maybe you're not understanding how this principle works, and let them school you. Maybe they're right. But
maybe this feather belongs in there.
Or maybe it's attached with that, EX6000 and it's not going to come off.
Yeah. On the drive back, we were actually listening to a podcast, and one of the things that they were describing was I don't remember. This was I want to say a mayor of an American city. I don't remember who it was right now. I love saying this. They experimented with like ways that they could minimize more like petty offenses and crime, and like one of them was like jaywalking, I think, where they had issues with people in certain intersections getting hit by cars. So they experimented with this crazy idea where I think like the mayor hired mimes and stationed them at intersections. And when people would break like petty small laws, the mime would just point at them.
Oh my God.
Like just imagine, like I don't know, you drop trash on the ground, you drop your cigarette on the ground, and this mime just points at you.
I like that.
And they found like they had measurable drop in offenses, like the street corners got cleaner. Like they fully did this study, and I got to look it up, and I'll link to it in the show notes afterwards. But I've been exploring that idea in my head a lot and wondering if there's a way we can implement that.
Well, and it works when there's places where it's an obvious infraction.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places. I mean, the 10 principles they're contradictory and they are not laws. They are guidelines. Yeah. And so part of what makes it work is that we are given the freedom to express and ideally not cross the principles. But there are times when we get close to edges, or we need to be pushed back, and if we're ever operating in a world where there's a right and a wrong, we are constricting the freedom that allows for so much magic.
Yeah.
And I would rather be in a place where we have some mistakes and we compassionately help each other than a place where we're yelling at each other.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah. And that's the middle way that we're exploring consistently. Should I keep going through my notes here?
Do your notes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Because the next thing is actually, I didn't do this on purpose, but the next one is kind of connected to this as well. What was the sound ordinance this year?
My understanding was no mutant vehicles within the city after a certain time.
Right. Like 3 a.m. or something?
Something like that.
It was pretty lenient.
Right. But it was a rule.
Yeah.
Right.
Rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've seen a lot of people like expressing very strong feelings about this.
Yeah.
My personal experience was, God damn, it felt great to sleep. We were on A Street. I didn't feel that I missed any parties. I had multiple sunrise. I got to have one hell of a fucking Burning Man. And I also felt like I could sleep. And it was great. And I don't know. What are your feelings there?
I certainly understand the danger of constrictions.
Slope. Yeah.
And I like the idea of districts within the city where certain maybe free for all zones and non free for all zones. Where I was living, another one of the sound things was sound had to be pointed inwards in your camp unless you were on the 10 and 2.
Yeah.
My camping place was on the far rear corner of my camp, so I was getting the brunt of our back neighbors. I think that with the state of Burning Man right now, with that trying to embrace a certain amount of rules to make it a more livable city for families and such like that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with it. Again, I kind of feel like you could, I'm not familiar enough with the process, but I would imagine that's a part of that thing that you could work out with placement if you're a camp lead. Hey, I want to be in a louder area versus I want to be in Kidsville. That makes sense.
Right.
To me, it did not feel constraining. I have been with eagerness and interest reading folks' arguments about it being constraining to them. And I have yet to read one that felt logical. It basically felt like a lot of the frustration. Again, I could be wrong. Please, listeners, comment, message me. I would love to share your thoughts on this. It just felt to me that there was this very visceral reaction to any sort of rule. And I'm doing quotes here. And it felt like the argument that a lot of the stuff that I've read personally, where people felt frustrated about sound camp rule stuff, felt like it was coming from a place of that person having a very specific idea of what burning entails, which is, in my experience, not something that we all agree on, because I regularly meet folks whose experience of burning has nothing to do with going to a party.
Right.
Has nothing to do with techno. I fucking love techno. That's me. But that's not what everybody's burn is. And every year our burns are different. And everywhere we burn and different regionals. And if we go to Burning Man, it's different. It's always different. So I feel like it's a false premise that if you're burning, it must mean full sound system blasting at all times.
Well, years back, there was a camp that was kicked out. They were driving on in a mutant vehicle. If I'm remembering, I saw this in a documentary, 15 years ago or so, and they were yelling with a megaphone at people, just insults. And eventually, they were kicked out because they were yelling at children and saying nasty things to children. Oh. And they were kind of trying to press this limit, no limits. We can do whatever we want in this city. And eventually, what Larry Harvey was saying in this interview, that they had to really go. It has to be a gift. What you are offering the city has to be a gift. Your art can't be inflicting things on people.
Yeah.
It has to be desired as a gift in some way. And so I think that if you feel like your right to burn means that you can keep people up all night, that's not the same thing as offering music to people that want to hear it.
Ah, that's so beautifully said, man. As you're describing this, I'm thinking about the episode that we did on the 10 principles, and we got into radical self-expression. Mm-hmm. Because, it's for listeners who have not listened to that one, a big thing is that there is there's the principle, and then there's the clarification of the principle underneath it, which is what most of us are not fully versed with.
Right.
And with radical self-expression, that gets into exactly what you just described. Is it inflicting pain on somebody for you to radically self-express yourself? Then that's where we sort of have to have a conversation about if this is okay.
Yeah. And I think that there are a lot of gifts that just need to find the right audience or the right place. And that's one of the beautiful things about Burning Man is there's a good chance you're going to find the person who wants whatever it is that you have to express. If you genuinely want to have that, crazy hardcore techno track blasting all night long, there's probably somebody that wants to hear it. But it's only a gift if you find that person. Yeah. Well,
this is actually a good example. My campmates were sharing a story about a year that they were placed next to, I don't remember the name of this camp, but their understanding was that they were, if they're still around, simultaneously the most requested camp to camp next to and the least at the same time. And one of the things that they did was they had this big cargo, what do you call it? Those container, a container thing set up. it looked like this big infrastructure. Like they had like a ton of bike parking in front of it, but then like you'd come and park your bike and you go and there's like nothing happening. Like that was like part of their joke. Their shtick was that they were set up for huge numbers of people coming to their camp, but then you come there and there's like literally just like the front of a container and maybe like a little bar with one person standing there. And so one of the things that they did was that every morning at 6 a.m. they would play the Banana Phone song. I am not super familiar with it. It's like, oh, it's the Banana Phone. It's like a kid's song, right? Mm-hmm. And every day they'd play like a different remix of it at 6 a.m. blasting, like full on loud. And this was like a thing like my campmates were sharing. Like the first couple of days, they're like, fuck these guys. This is not fucking funny. And then like day 3, they're like, okay, it's pretty fucking funny. So then it just got into the point where they started looking forward to it. Like looking forward to having their sleep disrupted because it was a good joke.
and it happens once. If they did it like every 15 minutes or on the hour, that would be
They did every morning at 6 a.m.
I think that could be funny. Maybe. I wouldn't want to. I mean, so years ago, I was a part of a camp that was next door to a Hare Krishna camp that chanted all day, every day. And not like beautiful singing chanting, just like
Hare Krishna. The same chant.
Yeah. And it was, it started to get to you after a while.
To them, maybe it was beautiful.
Exactly. But there were certainly people in the neighborhood that started to feel like it was no longer a gift after day 4.
Yeah.
You know? And it started to get really tense.
Yeah.
And in fact, allegedly, someone sabotaged their equipment.
Oh, because they had it on speakers.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it was super loud. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There's a camp that I've heard legends of for years called Camp All Night Long, where all night long they would play Lionel Richie's song all night long. So I think like starting at like sundown or something through sunrise on repeat all night long.
See, that would be a great deep playa installation.
Yeah.
Not a camp.
Here's the funny thing. Is it possible that it was a deep playa installation and somehow the Burning Man, the Black Rock City rumor mill exaggerated it to the point where the telephone game happened?
Totally.
And by the time the story got to me, it was a camp?
Very, very possible.
Because that's a thing that fucking happens often.
Yeah.
Which is kind of an interesting side note to make. Like if there's a thing that you're frustrated by, is it possible that it's an urban myth that's gone out of proportion?
As someone who has had someone intentionally telling false stories about them to fellow burners, I urge everyone to pause before you get too enraged about anything you hear.
You've only had one?
I've had one person who dedicated a huge amount of energy to trying to destroy me. Yes.
Oh my gosh! Like they made it their project.
I've had multiple meetings with the Burning Man organization because they claimed that I dosed them and that our camp was dosing people and like poisoning people, that we had pedophiles in our camp. Yeah, it was, and it was this person was not mentally well.
Yeah, I can see that.
But well enough that you could maybe believe them as they told the story. So over the years, I've had many people come up to me and say, dude, I heard some bad things about you. And
oh my God.
And I don't mean to minimize, because there is non-consensual dosing that happens at Burning Man. Yeah. And I don't mean to, victim blame. This is a situation where that's not what was happening. And it's just, it was ugly.
I'm so sorry you had to deal with that.
It was traumatic.
And it's a thing that it is a thing that intensifies in likeliness when you're a public persona, not you specifically, just any person. Unfortunately, it's like a thing that happens. Like people will focus on like this, a person on the screen,
right?
That's so interesting. On both sides of that spectrum, then the big lesson there is maybe ask some more questions first about whether or not this thing happened.
And in line with that, I think one of the wonderful lessons of this year's burn is how terrible the media was.
Totally.
Because my dad told me this when I was a really young kid. He's like, anytime that you are present at something that you then see a news article about, notice the inaccuracies. Because you will probably find something that's not right. Someone's name is misspelled, something. And for those of us that were at Burning Man this year, if you compare your experience to the way the media described it, and then you can lay over that comparison to everything you see in the news, you'd be like, holy shit, people have an agenda.
Yes.
Like, how can I get enraged about anything when I know how clearly they were trying to amplify and enrage and create a scene out of a scenario that for those of us that were there, we're having a blast. Maybe we got dirty, but yeah.
And they kept trying, by the way, which is the fascinating part to me. I saw like this headline for like The Independent or something that said, burners clash as Exodus lines raised to 8 hours or 6 hours or something like that. And I'm like, and we're all looking at this going like, 6 hours is a pretty good Exodus, first of all. And what clash? And I read the article because I was trying to figure out where the clashing, and they had like this one image of two guys that kind of looked like they had scrounched faces, but it totally just could have been that moment that they snapped the photo.
Right.
They had a scrunch face. It's been pretty fucking fascinating.
I mean, I obviously I wasn't here to watch the media stuff, but I got to listen to a lot of people describe things, and my mom watching news things, and she mentioned that there were news outlets that were struggling to find people who would complain.
Yeah,
I just think it's so great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I saw that quite a bit. Mark Fromson, shout out to Mark again. He's getting shouted out again 2 episodes in a row. Spectacular photographer from Canada. He was interviewed by Canadian News, and it was great. Like watching his clip, where again, like they're asking questions because to folks in the default, it's terrifying. You look at Burning Man, it's terrifying. And then you talk to people on the inside, and Mark gave this like really great breakdown of like, we're kind of taking care of each other. Everything's fine. It's a little bit of whatever. And then I watch other news outlets like keep trying to make it. They kept trying to make fetch a thing, and it just wasn't happening. And it was quite amusing to watch that. And I got texts and calls from friends and family. 99% of them were not burners.
right.
All the burners were like, yeah, they're fine.
Yeah, I mean, there was the moment after like Saturday morning after rained all night. Our camp got together and we had a meeting, and there was this moment where we kind of went around the room and how is everyone? Let's do a few word check in. How you're feeling? What resources you might need? Like, is your bedding wet?
Yeah.
And what resources do you have extras of? And so people are like, oh, I've got a Starlink if you want to send messages to friends. I've got extra this, I've got extra that. Of course, everyone had extra food. So so very quickly we knew we're fine.
Yeah.
Like, it is kind of exciting to be in a situation where you're like, do we have enough food? Do we have enough water?
Yeah.
Yes, we do have enough water.
And this is, you know what? This was actually a good example of when we did our post Renegade recording, and you were saying, you're like, remember your training.
Totally.
Yeah. No, we were like, we brought extra food. We figured it out. I know there was a lot of like folks, especially like first year folks, maybe like that didn't know too many people. If they're like in like a single person tent, that must have fucking sucked.
And hopefully you knew enough about the community that you know that you could go to your neighbors and say, hey, can I chill in your shade area, which is now a no rain area? Yeah. I observed some of that, which was nice. We had campmates like in hex yurts who were like the floor was just basically mud. Yeah.
That must suck.
Yeah.
I was super fortunate to be in a very dry Kodiak.
I've got my 83 motorhome has all sorts of leaks in the roof, which were never an issue at Burning Man before. But this year I had like cups and things all over the place to try to collect all of the liquid. One thing that was fun, so, one of Pink Heart's gifts is we serve ice water on the playa. And it was so fun on Friday afternoon when it was pouring, I put on my rain gear and an umbrella, and I started walking camp to camp and going like, there's a pretty big line right now, but if you guys need water, we're set. It's poured. Everyone's like, wait, water? Who need?
Yeah, no. For the most part, we were pretty well prepared, and I think a major key point, which is probably the part that is most difficult for non-burners to grasp, is that the communal effort aspect. That, if there isn't food, somebody will take care of it. Like my family, my immediate family still has a bit of a hard time understanding that. You know, like they kind of get it. Like, oh, okay, people are being nice. What they have a difficult time grasping is that we look forward to it.
Yeah.
Like I am psyched when I get to help somebody out.
Yeah.
We're going to climb up on this thing. Give me the hammer. We're going to, like all of that. Yes. This is getting me off.
Yeah.
This is making my burn more fun. This is making my day better. And I definitely feel that when I like talk to like my parents' circles in their generation, they feel like it's this chore that they have. Like, oh no, you're taking up too much space. Like, oh no, you're staying at your friend's house. How terrible is that? You must be a real burden. Like, no, my friend's like, we're going to fucking have a slumber party. It's great.
Yeah.
I have extra food. I am excited to cook. Like, this is the thing. Every year I have extra food because so many people are so excited to cook something and share it.
Right.
I think that is a major differentiating factor.
I mean, gifting is my favorite principle. I mean, I hate to pick favorites, but gifting is because of what you're talking about. Like when your brain is stretched or switched or, you know, rearranged so that you start to realize that you don't need to hoard. You don't need to you're not a burden. You're giving someone else the opportunity to gift. Because once you realize how good it feels to gift or to do something nice for someone else, then you realize the system requires givers and receivers.
Yeah.
And both sides can be joyful. If either side gets a crimp of awkwardness or guilt, it doesn't work so well.
Totally. Yeah. I had a dear friend. It's so funny. He was asking me, he's like, when somebody offers you something and like, you don't want to be rude, like, how do you decline? And I'm like, I smile and I say, no, thank you. Right. And then immediately he started laughing. He's like, yeah, why am I overcomplicating this? It's okay to just say no. They're being nice. No, thank you. We're good. Yeah. And I receiving gifts is so interesting. That's always been like the most interesting part of watching people on their burn journey is seeing how much harder a time people have with receiving gifts than giving.
Yeah. It's that awkwardness where people start scanning their body.
Yeah.
I didn't bring my gift. I don't have anything to give you. Like, this isn't a transaction. I know what you're feeling, but let me feel good giving this to you.
Yeah. I have, most of my notes have been covered. I feel like we obviously should address the Diplo situation because,
I mean, there was
people
this
won't shut
moment,
up about it.
There was this moment when we were all stuck that I was like, how beautiful is this that it's the great equalizer?
Yeah.
Like no one can fly in or out,
yeah.
no matter how many billions you have. And then like within an hour I go, yeah, the billionaires are getting rides at the road. I'm like, oh, okay.
Okay, let's get into that. First of all, on the list of all the ways that I feel like this burn was magical, I think one of the things that happened was that like last year certainly broke half of our community. So a lot of folks didn't come back. I feel like a little bit of a population dip actually helped the experience from my perspective. It felt kind of nice not to be absolute clusterfuckery on the Esplanade by like Monday.
Right.
And then all week I was predicting to anyone who would listen that I think this weekend is going to be the greatest shit show in Burning Man history because you have all of these tickets floating around, which by the way, we didn't even talk about Ticketgate.
Right.
All these extra tickets are floating around. All these people trying to get rid of their tickets for the first time in like modern Burning Man history, I guess, since we had the modern interpretation. There's all these tickets floating around. And I think all week, I imagine people like myself who might have been talking to people in default going, it is perfect. Right. The weather is amazing. So I was absolutely certain that what's going to happen is all these people in default who were going to not go to burn, last minute we're like, fuck it. Here's a ticket that's available that my friend hasn't been able to get rid of.
Right.
I'm just going to drive out and do the Weekend Warrior thing on Friday and Saturday and Sunday. And the playa was like, nah.
Right.
You can't come in.
Right. It was almost like an immune system response.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. It was fascinating. Wow. And then, then we had the experience that we have, which we've been talking about.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, can we talk about a Monday burn?
Yeah. Well, I want to finish the Diplo thing, and then we'll get into the Monday burn. The Diplo, and the reason I want to, so my thing was, I feel like I should preface by clarifying, I can't stand Diplo. I don't know the man personally. I'm not into his music. I've never been into it. I feel like I got to preface that before saying this next thing. When I heard about the exit, my understanding of what was happening was word got back to us that this was the phrase that got back to us. Rangers have communicated that if you're going to do an unauthorized exit, right now is the time to do it. And there was a very specific thing, like this was a very specific phrase that got back to us. Might be totally incorrect, but this was what, like, I had like various people in camps come out and say, if you can trek it out into like Gerlach or something, because there are, let's be real, part of this privilege conversation comes back to, I am pretty fucking hooked up that as a professional photographer who gets to just book time off because I'm my own boss, I don't have to run out into the default world. There was a lot of people who did have a lot of pressure. And when that moment of panic happened, I don't think it was even a matter of like safety. I think there was like, there's, who knows, CEOs.
I got kids at home.
Yeah, I got kids at home I got to make it back to. Like the list of reasons why you can't be stuck at Black Rock City for the ongoing 2 weeks, then that was a possibility. Is that there's things you need to get to. With Diplo specifically, I know that he had a show like Saturday that he had to get to. So he trekked out. When you're creating at that level, when you're a brand at that level, when you are a project at that level, there's the jobs of like thousands of people that are reliant on you showing up to that fucking gig. It's not just as simple as like, I wanted to go play music, so I got out of there.
Right.
There's a lot mixed up in there. All that said, by the way, I've like Googled Diplo after that just because I'm curious, like, is this a person I want to defend? And like, it seems like there's I don't know. There's quite a bit about him, but this is not about him specifically. This is about the level at which we've seen the community have a great deal of fun piling on the Diplo exit and the billionaires and the millionaires and stuff. And
I have no problem with it.
Yeah, what was that?
I have no problem with it.
With people shitting on Diplo?
No, with people leaving. Like, like at first I was frustrated because I thought the potential of us all being stuck together was so beautiful.
I agree.
But then, you know, there are all sorts of ways that people have to adjust. And as long as people had support through campmates or otherwise, and I'm sure Diplo had people that'd be willing to deal with. I talked to somebody who said, "Hey, I just got a free e-bike. Diplo left it." You know, and so like I get it. Like if you make the arrangements and it's acceptable. And
I've done that before, by the way, because I had to leave for a medical emergency, and the rest of our camp like broke down and cleaned up our stuff. Like that's a thing that happens.
Yeah, there was a moment where it bummed me out, but I feel like if you have the means and you have part of radical self-reliance is being able to have relationships that you can rely on.
Right.
And whether that is me bringing in a structure that my mom could sleep in when I brought her when she was 71, or whether it is Diplo having people that are going to take care of his camp because he has to go play a gig. It's part of how the culture and the community works, I think.
Right. Yeah, we what it's reminding me of is a part of the conversation that we had when we sat with Camp Walter, and a big thing that came out of that conversation was if you are giving more to Black Rock City than you're taking, the community is very forgiving and supportive of it, and they'll love you for it.
Yeah.
But if it feels like, and this is a feeling, it's a visceral gut feeling thing. If it feels like you're taking more than you're giving, people have a reaction. And then I think people come up with logical stories in their heads about why they don't like it. But I think it is a visceral feeling thing. Because another like example that pops up is like Carl Cox. My understanding of it we camped with Playground a few years ago. He flies in, burns, does a bunch of gigs, like plays a bunch of amazing sets, and then flies out. And he's not like there setting up his tent the way a lot of us are. But Carl Cox is beloved. Like, he is beloved. He pours a lot of his personal fortune into creating this experience. He gives a lot of his own personal emotional energy. Everyone who's met him sings praises of what an amazing person he is, and they just feel good around him. It feels like he's doing good things. I think maybe maybe Diplo and Chris Rock heading out, it just, something about it didn't feel good to burners. And that feeling translated into a logical explanation of why this is bullshit.
I think it also, some of it plays into that enforcer thing that I was talking about earlier, where we have a vague idea that money and billionaires are ruining Burning Man. And so if there's someone who has money and resources, we like to villainize them and
yeah. And it is a feeling thing. And I think it kind of goes back to, the Camp Walter example. Like, are you giving more or are you taking more? Anyway, I've just been like super fascinated watching that whole thing play out, because on one part of me, I've been like, no, I mean, I'm here. I see a responsible motherfucker who showed up to his gig and there's, millions of dollars online for that. But then, yeah. Chris Rock, by the way, where are you at, homie? Left too, huh?
Well, and by leaving, they missed one of the coolest burn nights ever.
Yeah. Yes. That's excellent transition, because it was fucking spectacular.
Fucking awesome.
It was. So, by the way, is that true? Can you confirm me? Is this the first time in Burning Man history that the man didn't burn on time?
That I know of, yes.
Yeah. Because there's.
I know that they've been like waiting later and later at night because of wind and stuff, but I don't know if they've ever postponed a day.
Yeah.
I think they've postponed a temple burn because of wind before.
Yeah.
Don't hold me to that.
Yeah. No, it was. There was an immediate, moment of panic where some people left. And then for those of us that stayed, we allowed the challenging part of the psychedelic trip to move its way through.
Right.
And we surrendered, and we were rewarded with one of the most memorable burn nights I can imagine.
I mean, it was such an interesting burn night, because by being on Monday, most camps were broken down or in the process of breaking down. So the city looked like Burning Man's over.
Yeah.
And then as you walk out onto the open playa and all the vehicles are there and all the people are there, it was this dramatic shift from it's over to it is 100% on. And I just thought that just felt so good. And there's also, just like all of Burning Man, there's this feeling of like shared camaraderie for dealing with the elements, whether it's a dust storm or a mud storm. Like, everyone there is like, all right, we're we're comrades.
Yeah.
We survived something together.
Yeah, we trauma bonded super hard.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I went out there and it was pretty fucking magical to actually like get so close. And yeah, it was fully on. Like, it was, and I remember we were actually planning to like leave like 7 a.m. the next day. And when we got out there to that burn night, we're like, oh no, it's fucking burn night.
Yeah.
And I got to have a pretty amazing experience, went through sunrise, did the robot heart thing. And
nice.
I think like Lee Burge played, I could be wrong, I feel like he played like a 3 or 4 hour set. Like, it went. I got to have the full experience, got back around noon the following day, and my buddy Patrick, thankfully super supportive and loving, was like, nah, you're good. And then we drove out. Normally
our camp, we break down 8 a.m. Sunday morning. So burn night is always a mellow night for me. So this is one of the first times I've ever just like wandered around all night or most of the night on burn night. And it was, it was fantastic.
Did you stay for temple?
I did.
How was that?
Beautiful. I mean, the temple this year was so gorgeous. And I had some of my best experiences at the burn were at the temple.
Yeah.
And so, it burned beautifully. It was, as always, just reminds me of the power of collective communal art creation. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like the the structure is so beautiful, the contributions of tens of thousands of people, and then the communal, letting go and there was a bunch of like little tornadoes, which is always, it's kind of like you can almost see the spirits kind of releasing. It was awesome.
Yeah, this was the first one. It's the first one that I missed. It's just due to timing constraints. If I didn't have to be back in San Diego for commitments to other folks, I would have absolutely looked for a way to stay and help with Resto. That would have been amazing. Do you have any information on what's happening with Resto?
I just talked to someone, Sean, they just finished taking down the trash fence, and they are on their shit show weekend right now, which is kind of a break where they get to, I don't know why they call it shit show weekend. I'm imagining they're letting loose for a moment, but I don't know details about how well it's going.
Yeah.
I really wonder just within the area that I'm responsible for around my stuff, I don't have 100% confidence that I was able to unearth everything that potentially was in the mud.
Same. And there's definitely been quite a bit of emotions in the community about what this means. And I personally have found, and I always come back to, our community rallies. I am very optimistic about what the approach is going to be. I personally seen lots of people around me like stepping up and saying, how can I help? How can I go contribute? I have the freedom from my job or from my family situation where I can go out there and like do some work. So I don't have a ton of details on it. Generally what I have found to be is that people rally. And I think that's a beautiful part of our community. And the most important part of that communal effort is that we do it because it's fun, not because we feel like because some rule said that we're supposed to.
Can I pause you?
Please.
Because the fun, this is something I've been thinking about a lot this year, because this year was not my most fun year. But I think fun is the wrong word.
Yeah.
Because what we are seeking is deep contentment or deep purpose, and there can be joy around it, but at the end of the day, what you get from the true feeling of participation is it's more than fun. It's deeper than fun. It's a feeling like it matters how I've used my time. I'm acting in accordance with my values. It's something I believe in. Yeah. And that is something that sometimes you have to postpone fun or even endure discomfort to get that real deep stuff.
Deep contentment is the word you're using?
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, because I've been trying to figure out how to word that. I've been using the word fun for a long time. An example of it that I often share is a few years ago, I camped with Burners Without Borders. And it was the year that I don't remember which hurricane touched down in Texas. And we had a BWB rep pop in and share with all of us in camp. Like this was like a candid, like, hey, this is what's happening. He was sharing with us that in these kind of natural disaster situations, the first boots on the ground, most people don't realize this, the first boots on the ground are often the insurance adjusters. Because immediately they land to figure out who's paying for all this. Like they need to figure that out. And he was sharing with us what happened is that these insurance adjusters were stumbling onto Burners Without Borders in Texas, having already set up home base. They've set up their shade structure. They've done their, and they're literally sitting there like feet kicked up having a beer because they're taking a break. And these insurance adjusters are like, the fuck did you guys get here so fast? Wow. Right? And I always hear that, and I always hear that story, and I share that story as an example of Burners. Like, it's because Burners found a way to make the work, I'm doing in quotes, like the responsibility, the contribution, quote unquote, fun. Like they found a way to make it fun. And that's how people are like, hey, this is fun. I'm going to climb up on a thing and make a game out of it. So deep contentment could be a way to describe that.
And I'm recognizing I'm bringing my personal year journey around some of my fun sacrifice.
You're fun.
Yes, my fun.
You're fun sacrifice.
Well, and the choice, like there's a lot of fun at Burning Man, but it doesn't change you because it's fun. It changes you because of sometimes the things that lead to deep contentment, you know, and ideally that path is filled with fun. And I think that's what Burn About Borders is about.
Yeah. There's a sticker or a poster that I've noticed many of my friends sharing. It says, "We didn't do this because we thought it would be easy. We did it because we thought it would be easy."
I saw that. I saw a banner. I read it like 3 times. And I was like, "Oh my, that's great.
Oh, it's so good." Let's come in for a landing. I feel so satisfied.
Me too.
With this conversation. I feel like every year we get a little better at this.
In another 9 years, we'll have it down.
Absolutely. Dialed in. Art-wise, Deep Playa was kind of empty compared to normal years, I feel like. I mean, quote unquote.
Not to get into I wish things were different, but my checkout art time was really impacted by mud.
Yeah,
I saw a lot less. The few that just really... I loved I don't know what it was called. It was called, it was a giant clitoris.
Yeah. Yes.
I love the giant clitoris, and I loved how many people came upon it and said, "I found it."
Yeah.
I found it.
Yeah. Now, I would say the giant clitoris was one of the favorite art pieces of the year because I've seen more people post about it and talk about it than anything.
Tip of the Iceberg, that's what it's called.
That's
Tip of the Iceberg
excellent.
by Melissa Barron.
That's spectacular.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. I got to hang out and take photos with my friend Myra, who's a psychologist and was on the previous episode of this show called Addiction to Certainty. So we were reviewing some of the information that came under it. Same night is when we discovered the Ukrainian piece that was made from like
The hedgehog one?
Yeah. Describing that this stops tanks.
Yeah.
That was fucking
So
intense.
good. Yeah.
The temple was absolutely gorgeous.
Unbelievable.
I really appreciated the Iranian wall that they had up, and I took a lot of photos of that for my mom.
That's what broke me. I was walking around just so impressed with the beauty of it, and then that wall was what cracked me in the most beautiful way. Yeah, it was incredible.
Woman, life, freedom. So Iranians are really big into poetry. Like our culture is very poetry driven. It's very normal to have a conversation with somebody like at a water cooler and have them just randomly drop a poetry verse from 700 years ago as like just a reference, just real casually, and then just move on as if nothing happened. This is a very Iranian thing. So we're good at chants. Woman, life, freedom. In Farsi, it's Zan, Zendegi, Azadi. Zan, Zendegi, Azadi. It's like, so when the chanting and protesting was happening in Iran, like this was, it very quickly caught on, and it flows. It's got the Z sound in it. And, it was really sweet to see that and to see the rose cuttings. And, it definitely felt that this burn felt to me like very aware and connected to a lot of what's happening in the default world.
I felt that too, and it felt appropriate. Like there are times when I feel like sometimes I see a political thing at the burn, and it feels like like it's halting the flow of things. And I felt like the politically or the conscious aspects that I saw in the temple and other places, some of the art pieces just felt connecting.
Yeah. God, that's a really good point. Because I remember when Burn Wall Street by Otto von Danger.
Yeah.
I remembered that was a big deal because it was like, why are we doing something so political?
Right.
And it does feel like this year, the exploration of more political topics felt like almost like the burner way of looking at it. Like I'm not just saying fuck you to everybody who disagrees with me. Here is a perspective.
Yeah.
Here is a stance. Here's how we can be better.
That can also be radically included.
Yeah.
Did you see the Tower of Babel burn?
Yes.
With the figure?
No, what happened to figure?
So from our angle, though I was more watching it, there was a man in the middle of the flames. I don't know. I assume it was a
really?
metal figure, and it was with his hands out. And then it's like, oh my gosh, it's Larry's hat. It was like a metal figure of Larry with his hands out. And then, I don't know how it was made, but then one arm dropped and the other arm dropped. So it was almost like an inverse man thing of the arms going down, and it was this like black silhouette of a man as the incredible Tower of Babel went down. It was
That's
a beautiful
incredible.
scene. Yeah.
No, I was watching it, but I was also deeply engaged in kind of an intense conversation with a fellow burner. So I missed that part.
I could have been imagining it.
It's possible.
Either way,
I don't know. How fun was this burn for you?
Like I said, mostly sober with an asterisk. So no, I was pretty clean during that moment.
Yeah. I'm going to throw in some random hacks and interesting things, and then we'll kind of wrap over here. Just personal things, like I did lion's mane often this burn, like drops of lion's mane. And I had like a mushroom coffee you can get at Whole Foods. I don't remember what the name of the brand was, but I felt fucking fantastic. I was like supplementing with Makina Purin, I think it's called, which like is a dopamine precursor. And I've learned about this stuff because I've gotten really big into the Huberman Lab podcast.
So good.
Yeah. And I really felt fantastic all burn, and I feel great. All my focus and just having really great energy. Highly recommended.
All right.
Also, a battery powered cooler. Fucking game changer.
Wow.
Borrowed it from a friend of the show, intern Will, called the Burner Podcast's only intern. Yeah, he loaned his battery powered cooler, which is like smaller than a normal cooler, but when you don't have to deal with ice all week, we like plugged it into the car for the drive up, and then the batteries covered it the whole time I was there.
Wow. I feel like anything that was awesome heat related also needs an asterisk this year, because like keeping things cool when it's 70 degrees out is different than keeping things cool when it's 110 out.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
But like that, all right, coolers on the list.
Highly recommended, worth it. It's one of those things where like you don't realize what a pain in the fucking ass dealing with ice is until you don't have to deal with it. And you're like, wow, like my entire week is 7% less stressful. And it's every one of these little things, you know, like this feeling of like, just make it 1% better, 1% easier, 1% more.
Because you got to have a surplus of better, so then when the weather gets totally crazy, because that's going to make it. You got to deal with that.
All of that did it.
I've one poetic moment that I would love to share. Which
Please.
Is, so Saturday, after we had our camp meeting and figured out what our resources were, we realized that we had we have a refrigerated truck, a ice truck that we keep our ice cream in, because we give away ice cream, vegan ice cream with gluten-free cones, radically inclusive treat, and we didn't have enough fuel to keep it going for too much longer, so we had to give away the remaining of the ice cream. And so there was this little window Saturday afternoon when it wasn't raining, and people were kind of starting to come out of their camps dazed, and people that attitude of like, oh my God, Burning Man's ruined. And so my partner Lisa and I, we went out and served ice cream in the mud to people. Yeah. And so chocolate ice cream that looked like mud, you know, giving it to people. And it was just so beautiful. One of the stories that I tell often is about crap or cone, where that at every moment in your life, you've got one foot in dog crap and you got holding an ice cream cone. And so that like, and the way you experience life, whether you're in joy or otherwise, is, are you focusing on the crap or are you focused on the cone? And so I got to literally be having this crap or cone moment in the midst, this break in the weather of like, what are we going to focus on? Cone. It was beautiful.
Fucking poetry, man. I love it. The playa literally said to everybody, fuck your burn.
Seriously.
Which is fucking amazing, man.
And it was the burn we needed.
It was absolutely the burn we needed, and it was spectacular. And we're gonna take this episode out with your masterpiece, your pop hit, the burn you need.
Fantastic. The inspiration hit, and so, you know, the mud may have muddied my mindset, but it was also my muse.
Damn fucking right. I'm glad that we got to record this before you get signed to Sony Records. And
no comment.
Yeah, song goes international. It's the next Gangnam Style. John, thank you so much.
Such a pleasure.
This was so much fun.
I love you.
I love you. I've been holding this in for 3 weeks. And it's like I'm not talked about it. And I've just been like literally I'm going to let it all out on this episode. And this has been just absolutely perfect. I'm psyched. So good.
Thank you.
All right. Till next year. Yeah. Remember last year you were kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to go back next year.
I didn't know until a few weeks before that if I was going to have the courage, but
I got to tell you that for me, that's been big actually. Yeah. It's okay. Let it go. Maybe you're not supposed to go this year.
I'm still saying like, I'm pretty sure I'm going back, but
yeah.
It's things, a lot can happen in a year. I'm going
to continue to go the same thing that I did last year, which is I'm not planning to go, but I am preparing to go on a whim.
I like that.
I'm going to try to do the same thing, unless some responsibility calls or art project happens. That's where I'm currently at. And I like that. That's the way to navigate it.
I'll see you there.
Yes. All right. That's there it is. Our annual recording with John Halcyon. And after this outro is done, you're going to be hearing a pop hit by Halcyon featuring this little bird, The Burn You Need. It's a song that was produced by Inspiration on Playa and will be the theme song of this very episode. So that's what you'll be hearing after this one is done. Please share this episode with 3 friends. That's it. That's the real easy thing that we are asking. Just text it to them, email it to them. People who've been to Burning Man, people who've not been to Burning Man, who cares? Send this episode to 3 friends if you enjoyed it. That helps us get more visibility for the show. And we really appreciate you. We don't advertise this show, obviously. We don't do any of the promotion. So all of the following that this show has been built strictly on word of mouth from you, our dear listeners. And we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And as always, you are invited to pitch interviews in your neck of the woods or throw some dough in the tip jar. All of these links are over at burnerpodcast.com, where you'll also find more podcasts that are not hosted by me and other cool burner content. Our producers are a varying team from various parts of the country. The Burner Podcast theme music is America's Horse with No Name Remix. It is produced by Joman. He is based in Austin, Texas. Find more of his music over at soundcloud.com/DJ Joman. So until next time, love, light, and all the other crap. Take us back to the playa. Halcyon.
Some call it mudpocalypse, we call it vacation. Footage of Pink Heart was all across the nation. And speaking of footage, our boots became blocks. We wrapped them in plastic, trash bags, and socks. But we are burners, this is what we do. We keep on pooping when mud fills the loo. Not the burn you want is a common verse. You get the one you need, even when it hurts. We celebrate the rainbows and share extra food. There's always good music to lift up your mood. Our glass was half full with the wet clay mud mess, but rocking adversity is what we do best. We don't go to Burning Man to lounge and relax. It's an adventure, a challenge, an extreme master class. Not the burn you want is a common verse. You get the one you need, even when it hurts. The first days were good times, we could cruise around. There were several great days when we had perfect ground.
Pink Heart served ice cream,
and I gave a talk. Who knew by Friday we barely would walk? I'll admit to some glee when people got stuck in the mud. I'm sure your penis is huge, dude, that your truck is a dud. We had to be patient and stick together. All plans were surrendered and we bowed to the weather. Not the burn you want is a common verse. You get the one you need, even when it hurts.